That was a bit different. Interesting. We are into the Loyal Locals podcast. Hello, everybody. I'm Drew Steck. I got Steve Brokoff, El Presidente of the Locals, here with us. And we are going to be with you today for episode 29. We do not have our fun intro music. That's because we don't have our fun intro man. I thought it was kind of passe to try and pass it off as Jerry when we didn't have it loaded in here, ready to go for the show. But just let you know off the bat, he won't be joining us here tonight. It will be Steve and I, so you got to roll with us. Apologies.
Jerry got the COVID jab. Jerry got the COVID jab yesterday, and he's feeling a little bit under the weather, so he kind of let us know earlier that he wasn't going to be up for it tonight. But you know what? It's just going to be us two tonight for the duration of the podcast, and then we'll hang out for a little bit after hours as well. So, again, as Jerry plugs every week, I will plug as well. If you do not join us live, please do so. It's a ton of fun in the comments. After hours is always fun as well. That does not get posted in audio format. I know it's not easy for everybody to tune in, but if you can, please do. It's always a good time.
Yeah, or if you ever listen to an episode and you think, what went on after this? Where was this conversation going? That's where it goes. So it does sometimes go to the after show.
Sometimes you wonder, and sometimes you don't want to know, but sometimes you do want to know. So tune in.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it's like, hey, man, it's enough for me. I'm 45 minutes, hour, I'm out. I'm good. But and let's be kidding. It's more like an hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes. But
in local tradition, Drew, what are you drinking?
Yeah, man, I'm drinking something different today, a Belching Beaver. Somebody grabbed this for me, so it was just in my fridge. But a Belching Beaver Hazer's Gonna Haze. So I've never had it before. I'm interested. What about you?
Belching Beaver's up my way. I mean, I know they have other locations, but original spots up here in Vista and Oceanside. Typical brewery Booze Brothers, but they're Crow Jane tonight. Some cool can art as well. Maybe we'll talk about some cool can art opportunities later, but I don't think we're going to open quite with the goods yet. We'll get there.
This looks like kind of some art we did during the weekend. I think it's got like a brick wall and some graffiti on it. I don't know. Might have done something like that. So
again, we're going to talk about this too, but plugging the Discord. Please join the Discord if you have not. There's some really cool stuff going on there, but.
Yeah, man. Let's jump into it. Else? I mean, there's news. There's news to talk about. So like some of these podcasts we open, we're like, hey, let's not talk about. Let's take a while to get to it because we really have no news, or we have to spin some news off as news. But the club dropped a decent amount on us in the last week or so, between their filling in their preseason gap and then looking forward with the schedule. So I mean, we would be remiss to jump forward without kind of talking about, the friendlies maybe that have happened first and kind of get those out of the way and then get to the news. So we'll tease you a little bit with that news that I said is so tantalizing. But
hang on, guys, hang on. We know there's a lot. Yeah, but the friendlies last weekend, I kind of it's hard because we can't watch them. And we've talked about this a lot too. That the club is being pretty coy with their strategy, with their lineups. Or not lineups because they're posted, but how they kind of want to play. I don't know if, what the streaming situations are. We'd obviously love to watch these games, but they're just flat out, kind of straight up, they're just not available. So it kind of is what it is. But at the same time, things you kind of can glean. Number one, lineup. I mean, I think we're really seeing in these friendlies a starting lineup. I mean, between this past Saturday and the Saturday before, there's only one change, and that was Nicky Jackson for Toomey. And I think that they're kind of similar players. And so I don't think I think that that starting lineup that we're seeing is pretty much set in stone, which is kind of a good thing. You're seeing this is our first choice 11. This is who we're going with. These are our guys. You like to see that. At the same time, maybe some rotation here in the next few days, few games for injuries, that kind of stuff. But I do like to see that there's kind of you can kind of see a pattern, and you can see that they've identified their players. They're not like tooling around and this player, that player. When you kind of see that, you kind of say, oh, is there a lot of uncertainty? But it seems like things are kind of there. So to run through the lineup real quick in case you were not able to tune in or tune into social media at least. Trey Muse at keeper, Elijah Martin, Jack Metcalf. Those would be the fullbacks or wingbacks depending on how they play. Grant Stoneman, Charlie Adams, Jack Blake, Alejandro Guido, Nicky Jackson, Colin Martin, Corey Herzog, and Thomas TV. Not going to try to do that one again. But like I said, the only change there from the week before was Nicky Jackson for Toomey. And I think I said it a couple times, it's a really good sign.
Yeah, I think it really just lets you know. Last season, I think when we were going through some of these games, they were rotating heavily. You were looking at different players entirely in certain positions, either in the midfield, which is really crucial, right, to lock down a consistent midfield and back line, especially. And then you always want attackers who are scoring and in position. And if you're going to have some that are consistent as you're, penciled in starting 11 or penned in starting 11, that's good to go. So I really think that's what we can take away here. It's tough to not have as much access as everybody wants. As we've said over and over, it's nice to have the sausage be made in front of us, just for those of us who appreciate the subtleties of the sausage. But really, for me, it's more like, for a meat to mouth moment there, guys. But the thing for me, though, is more like the essence from the team, and it's that they're confident, even if they're not scoring in certain games here and haven't been as productive as they like to be. Landon said they're right on schedule in terms of, and actually ahead of schedule, kind of where they want to be in terms of a club. So I wouldn't read too much into the production. And I think, again, that's why both clubs, even if it's the MLS club saying, hey, we don't want you to show it, or if Loyal's trying not to, I think either way, there is a justification to that, because you can get to the second game of the season and all of this could have been a bunch of talk about literally nothing. That's just practice somewhat, with these sessions not even being a full simulation. Some are 60 minutes, some are 40, and those kind of weird timed out sessions. So it's fun to see the different people get a run out and see the different looks. I'd say that's kind of been interesting to see the secondary lineups a little bit and see the trialists getting worked in there. We haven't quite got to know who they are yet. So that kind of stuff to me is pretty interesting. But the overall 11 being set, that was something we all discussed in the Discord when we saw who they brought back before they even put out an 11. So I think that's a good sign that I think we're all on the same page as a fan base with the management, which usually means that what they're trying to tell us is successful. What they're trying to put on the field speaks a story that we can ingest and be able to tell ourselves, as well as have them tell us. So I think as a group, we're all thinking the same style, which is, huge from a club standpoint. They said they wanted it to be not only a team thing, but a club that's rooted in a certain style. So I think that's starting to come to light in terms of how they're trying to put together 11 moving forward and who's going to be in that 11. So
and one other thing, other things to mention before we move on from the friendlies. This one, you mentioned it and it triggered in my mind, the 60 minutes instead of the 45 the week before. Now you're starting to see guys get, in baseball terms, get stretched out, fitness, match fitness. You're starting to see maybe you're playing 45 minutes, having a halftime speech or halftime talk, some adjustments, and then going to play 15 more. That's definitely different, and I think that's a lot more indicative of like a full 90 or a full performance. Obviously, usually in a soccer match, first subs usually hit about 60 minutes. So I think it's kind of an indication that they're starting to simulate a real game environment a little bit more. So worth noting, and also a big shout out to Andrew for the updates when he gets to them. Really jump on his, set his Twitter for notifications and jump on when he, when the matches are on, because he's really good about halftime. I really liked what I saw. I really, that was really good to see. He's really good about that, which, he's our eyes on the field. So
he's the only one that can't yell at, right? Because he's the owner. I think that's how it goes. I think the idea is that the social media team's treading on eggshells. Whatever instructions they were given was that they're not allowed to show certain things. It seems like they haven't told us any of this. We're just assuming, but it seems very clear the directive they were given, versus Andrew being the owner. It seems like he can discretively choose which things to show and not have anybody be like, well, he showed it. He's Andrew. So that's the nice thing, is he's willing to give us that access, and he gets where we're coming from. He's a fan too, and he really wants to give us that if he could. I think that just to some degree, again, for whatever reason, we all want to see it. To the large degree, most people shouldn't, honestly, because it is just practice. But I would be really curious to get, as we get closer, once this forms up, and we'll talk about the next part of this, what some of these more full 90s do look like. And it would be nice to see those, like we did with the Reno match last year. I think it gave us a sense of who can perform on the team, who's going to stretch the field, who's going to play what role just physically in the side, which is nice as fans. So when you do get there, actually, hopefully in the stands, a lot of that's easier to follow, because it is harder to follow sometimes from the end of the stadium to see who's where. So it's nice to have that in your head pre-coded as to who does what. And when you see them moving, you kind of have a sense of how play is moving. So for me, that's what I usually use preseason for, and why I think it's nice to have access. But again, it's not going to be the way that it's going to be. So I think I'm excited for what they can give us. I've told them, show us just random stuff. Show us what the Gatorade machine looks like today or something. I don't care. I'm starving over here. So as I said, I'm like the Dave Chappelle, y'all got any more of them picks?
And I like and while he's not here, shouts to Jerry because he is the investigator. Man, he finds like the right Instagram feed. He's always like, look, I found pictures, and he sends it to our group text or the Discord. It's always so good to see. Like, I find myself scrambling and I'm like always 2 minutes behind him. Like, look, I found him. Oh, he already sent those. So shouts
everybody
to Jerry.
in the Discord already knows. So that's the Discord again. Right. Like, get in there and like. He's our knowledge is your knowledge, and so when one of us does that, we can provide it to everybody else in a place that feels like we can share this without blowing up the internet, maybe, or going outside of space that we've created for just our members and you guys to feel safe to share that stuff. That's not going to necessarily be a like expose, but is for you guys. So as I said, we're a bunch of investigators. We might even create a channel in there for sleuths. #sleuths.
Ooh. I like it. It. That's a good idea. I like it. Yeah. But speaking of preseason, continuing on, another announcement that has come in the past week would be the match against 1904 this upcoming weekend. That March 27th date was kind of open-ended. Nothing was really officially announced. I think that they were trying to do a couple of unique and really cool things, but COVID still got in the way. So 1904 is still this weekend. Part of me is super excited. It's the first kind of San Diego derby. I saw on Twitter. I believe it was Carl, the Stay Classico. I think that's pretty good. It's pretty damn creative. Whether you're a Ron Burgundy or Anchorman fan or not, it's pretty good. It's almost too good to pass up. I think Travis commented on that, and I can almost see some art being worked in his head already. But like I said, part of me is excited because it's the first kind of first opportunity for the two San Diego clubs to play each other. On the other hand, it really feels like something supporters should be at. So on the other side, it kind of feels like I wish we could be there. I wish we could have we could see this. I wish we could see history being made. But it just kind of falls into that it is what it is category. They're going to play, they're going to do what they can. We're going to get a report. And then the next time they play, I think it'll feel more like the first match between the two clubs because we'll be there. At least I would think that would happen, but I honestly don't, can't say, but it's going to be a cool thing either way. Another match for the club. I know the weekend after that is here in Chula Vista, I believe, against New Mexico United. So that's another USL Championship club. It would be the first USL Championship club that they would play against. So some like opponents. So a couple important matches preseason coming up here, but worth noting. So anything on the 1904 match, Drew?
Well, I think the New Mexico one you were saying, that's the one I'm most curious if we could get cameras into to see if they were to choose one. 1904 now is up there, but New Mexico is the one I was really thinking before they set that date. Was, hey, this would be the most interesting because that's the case. I think 1904 for local reasons, but for just tactical and just technical reasons, New Mexico would be the most interesting to see what they would roll out against a side they may face on the road at some point this year as one of their outside of group games, right? So there is always kind of those in the mix as well. But the 1904 game for me it's tough. It is what you said. It's the mix of the positive, which is, hey, these clubs get to play each other, which isn't that cool. We have two actual San Diego clubs playing each other in the second and third divisions of soccer, which I don't know if it's ever happened. Obviously, you've had Chula Vista for a number of years, and I think they've sparred off in the Open Cup against other people within other divisions and in the surf and other groups within previous entities, the battalion over the years. But really has this ever happened to this degree? No. Right. Notably, no. So this is going to be pretty exciting to see. And so I think that's the positive is hey, we made it to where two franchises could be alive at the same time to actually play each other. Great. So that I'm excited about. I hope there's more access just in terms of letting us see what's happening out there because people will really want to see it from both sides. And there'll be a very big appetite, I think, for just pictures of the two teams together shaking hands and the two uniforms side by side. And just for many of us who have been on this journey, who have watched these things come up, it's exciting to see the water flow downhill a bit. You see these different my mind drifts towards an analogy of tributaries for streams and rivers, right? So we're all part of this San Diego soccer river, but lately it felt dry, right, for a number of years. And there were some of us that would fill the creek bed with Outlaws or with our European clubs that we love or Jolos. And, as San Diego soccer fans, I always felt like when we'd have something that really makes the river run for us, and you have to create tributaries here, right, to help flow into that. And part of that was 1904 was a big tributary that was a spring that welled up and poured over, when we thought we wouldn't see pro soccer ever. They played on a field, and it was amazing to see, and had such a raw energy to it. And then now having Loyal with a lot of planning and dedication, but even then a quick run up to say like, hey, we just want to play. We want to be on the field and be a team that plays here. And that journey for us as the locals has been, awesome to be on this side. So I'd say for our friends in the outsiders, for our friends everywhere, that's where we want to be together with them in this. And so it's really hard to swallow that, but to me, it is what it is. And so for their players to get to play ours, the exposure is great. Maybe there is commingling in terms of, I know some of these players, they've been scouted on both sides a little bit for years. And so for me, it'd be exciting to see where the fruits of that go. And as you said, the next time, maybe just have some of the silliness of the whole like first, that'll be gone at least, which is nice. But I'm just like, I hate even pre-naming things, by the way, but Stay Classico is just so good. And I love Carl so much that it comes from such a genuine place of just being good at finding names sometimes. And he is one of those. So shout out Carl for that. Cause normally I'd be like, why are we naming this? Let's let them play first. But yeah, it's too good.
It's so good.
But yeah, that's that kind of stuff where like I want to see them play a little bit and create some history. Maybe there's some animosity. Maybe a fight gets broken up. We don't know too much, right? So then there's just like mystique that builds on either side because we're not there. And when we do get in the stands, we have signs already that say like, don't attack our keeper. Like even though we have no clue what happened, right? Like we have no idea. It just was a random Twitter update that they told us very little about. And so like that's the kind of stuff where like maybe that'll happen here where we build some mystery around this as opposed to the unveiling, which is the fun part of it. I think is this something we've all had in our heads for so long is it's finally real, but we don't get to see it. So like that's such it's such a weird dichotomy. It's like if a tree falls in a forest, right? Like that whole thing is like the hard part of this as fans, but we believe as fans. And so I think we believe that this is going to be, great for our club, great for our city. And to me, I think that's the hope is again, some mystique that we build through this process.
Yeah. And so talking about, looking forward to things, looking forward to a future 1904 home match, looking forward to the big news from today, which were the schedule drops, some scheduled tidbit drops, formally announced, no leaks, none of that stuff. We have 3 confirmed matches. We can run through those real quick and then we can revisit each one and kind of talk more in detail. So we will open the season away to Phoenix. Big match. Everybody kind of knows how last season ended, but again, like I said, we'll revisit these. Next match after that is Tacoma away, May 13th. And that is to explain, that's their home opener. So all the home openers were announced and we happen to play 3 home openers. We play at Phoenix, that's their home opener. We play Tacoma, at Tacoma, that's their home opener. And then we play our home opener, which is May 29th against Las Vegas Lights. So like I said, revisiting each one. That Phoenix match, here we go. We kind of, talked about this a little bit before about, how would we open the season? How would we kind of choose to open the season? And man, this is going to deliver. This is Friday night lights. I assume it's going to be the focus of, the USL sphere on Twitter, on social media, everybody tuning in. Everybody knows how last season ended, Phoenix here with the Colin Martin slur incident. Everybody knows what happens when we went to Phoenix, away last time. Our last match in Phoenix, Rubio Rubin had a hat trick. We won 3-2. Their whole spiel was broken. Their home streak, all that stuff. So it's going to be a massive game. Drew, anything on this until we start getting into the big question that I think
nothing.
Everybody has.
Yeah, it's just Phoenix. That's all it is. But it's their new stadium. They're opening, I believe, as well, which is slightly away from the city center. That's the only knock on it, I guess, and we might talk about that in a second. But there's that kind of thing. You want to crash their housewarming, right? You want to be the team that messes up their homecoming. And for me, this is they're moving on from one of their better players in franchise history and having to move, culturally in some ways, Junior Flemings. It felt like maybe, I think he believed he had another year on their contract, but maybe he didn't. But either way, they moved on from him, and he was a large part of their offense over the last few years. So it'll be curious to see. Obviously, they got a lot of firepower. Obviously, they did fine in the playoffs without him. And kind of how that locker room adjusts his chance. Is it one of those things where they're all in and they're firing for him because they feel like, hey, he's our guy, and you know what, he learned some stuff and he's sharing it with us and he's doing better even than before and we like him even more? Or is it something where as they maybe see some trouble or they lose to us in an opening game or a few other ones that it becomes troublesome because it fractures the locker room from last year? So those are the kind of things I'm curious.
And you mentioned the Junior Flemings thing, but they signed Aiden Quinn from Orange County. So
exactly. And that's
they got, and it's almost a, arguably like for like replacement there. So it's definitely not like, oh, Flemings is gone, step down. Like Aiden Quinn is a phenomenal player. I think he was, I don't know if they even did USL first teams last year, but I know the year before that he was either USL first team or USL second team. So
and there's
definitely a phenomenal player. There's no doubt that they're still an incredible squad, but I think we've made upgrades too. And we've seen that all throughout the offseason and then through the reports from preseason. But the big question is away days. Are we going to travel? Are we going to be able to go as the locals? Are we going to be able to go as an organized supporters group? And just straight up, no BS to you guys. We don't know yet. When this was announced today, my first reaction was to contact the club, and I asked them, hey, can you guys reach out to Phoenix? We want an answer as soon as possible on organize, support away supporters tickets. And kind of their answer, at least what I heard back from Ricardo from the club was we just don't know yet. It's still a month and a week away essentially. That right now, spring training, all the spring training games out there operating at 25% capacity. Who knows if things are going to go to that a lower tier out there. I don't know how the tiered system really works in Arizona or Maricopa County, but if they go lower and stadium capacity, public health limits go up, maybe. But right now, the kind of inklings are, right now it's looking towards, season ticket holders only. Like I said, it's a 10,000 seat stadium that they're opening. So say 25% capacity, that's 2,500 people. I know from last year and years before, Phoenix Rising had about a 6,000 person stadium, and I think that they were almost sold out with season tickets week in and week out. So there's a lot of demand for these, especially with a new stadium. So, we're going to fight for it. We're going to do the best we can. But honestly, it's so early that I really want to go. I really want to be out there. I really want to support the club. And of course, we can't stop people from going individually and buying, second market tickets, or even if the club does, individual tickets, that's on them. But as far as like an organized away supporters group goes, we just don't know yet. We just really have to wait and see. It is worth noting that, during normal times, during like normal, no COVID, it's literally in the USL rules that there has to be an allocation of tickets for away supporters. That's why Vegas had away supporters presence at our home opener, even though we had a sold out stadium and there were demand for our tickets. It's in every single stadium and every single club, in all their contracts or the bylaws and all that stuff that, under normal times, we would go to this game no matter what. Even if they were sold out, they would have an allocation of X amount of tickets for traveling away, supporters. And obviously that doesn't mean that they're going to give us 1,000 tickets. That means they're going to give us, say, 200 tickets, and we would have to then divvy it up through a raffle or whatever. But the point is, under normal times, that is something that USL mandates of every club to honor away supporters and travelers and that kind of stuff. And I think that's amazing, right? I think that's a really cool thing that they do. It's kind of like EPL, right? There's always allocation for away supporters. But during COVID, who knows? Like, all that stuff goes out the window. They have to honor their season ticket holders just like Loyal would, right? If we're operating at 6,000 seat stadium, if we have 25% capacity, that's 1,500. That's 1,500 tickets. We've talked about how that's their season ticket holders that would fill that up. And so they're not going to allocate 100 or 50 or any of those tickets, any of those precious tickets to away supporters, right? They're going to allocate those to their season ticket members. So just like Loyal would do that for us, for our season ticket members, Phoenix is going to do that for them and their season ticket holders first and foremost. And so like I said, I'm gonna push. I'm gonna do what we can. but we just don't know. It's just so hard to say. And I'm going on my soapbox here, but we're not going to break any social distancing protocols. We're not going to break public health guidelines. We're not going to push for this and buy tickets and then oh, F it. We're just going to like go in this section together and do this, our way. Like, we're not going to do that. That leaves a horrible impression on the locals. It leaves a horrible impression on San Diego Loyal. And that's not what we want, right? We want to be respectful. We want to be supporters that support our club, but don't take advantage and don't break rules and don't, do things the wrong way. And I know there's this essence of that of be a supporter, not a rule follower. But at the same time, right now, things are just so different that we have to kind of ride that line really carefully. So we really just need to wait and see. I think in a week, maybe week and a half, we'll have a little bit more of an update, a little bit more of an inkling on how things might go out there. And if things open up, I think it might be, things might be a little bit better. But right now, at least from what I've heard, which is directly from the club, and Ricardo had heard from the Phoenix front office. Right now, they're prioritizing season ticket members, but they are working with Maricopa County to try and assess and see what their total capacity might be. And then Ricardo, I think, would fight for us, and I can jump on the phone with them as well if need be to fight for us in our desire to travel. So I will do what we can, but I just. As much as hype and as much I've seen on social media and Discord and all this stuff today about like, oh, I'm gonna go travel, yeah, hell yeah, let's go, let's be there, sounds good. Like, it's just individually sure, but as a group, like, we would want to. We just can't. There's no guarantees right now, just like life. So we're doing what we can, but we'll see.
Right, like right now, it's tough. If you're an individual, again, go ahead. Johnny's in here like, hey, I'm going to buy resale or whatever. Go right ahead and do what you feel comfortable doing. Similarly, we don't ask you to come back to the stadium if we are even allowed to come back to our stadium if you don't feel comfortable doing that either. So, it's what you're comfortable with doing. And again, certain people have gotten the vaccine. Certain people are at different places than other people, and certain people have different life situations than other ones that makes this available to them within this time period, which is great. It's just hard to say like, hey, collectively we can do this. And as Steve said, the logistics of that just aren't there directly for us and don't seem to be normal to a certain degree that we can predict whether or not that's even going to be possible. And most likely all of the factors of saying like, hey, if it takes rain to make clouds, it's like our clouds make rain. We don't even have clouds. Like, that's the thing right now, is it doesn't seem like the conditions are there for a group trip at this point in the season. And as he said, continually with each game, we will check in and see what is available and see what is okay. But it is just a safety thing for the other fans too, to say like, hey, this isn't right to possibly be shipping people in yet until we know that we can have games again and feel good about it, maybe with our own fans. And so it just depends on the market. Phoenix is more open to it than most, so we will probably have a larger barometer there than we will say in Oakland, maybe earlier on, right? Like if we go up to Oakland and even mid-May or late May, it's going to be, or late May we're playing here, but let's say like early June, that still might be difficult in Oakland. And then we might be going to Phoenix or Vegas the next week after that, let's say, and it's much more open, right? So it'll just be different depending on the situation, depending on your comfortability and your, where you're at personally. So I don't harp on anybody who wants to go either way or whatever. And we love the enthusiasm, and we can't tell you not to be super enthusiastic, but we can say as a team, as a group, the conditions for us to do it just aren't there. But I'm excited to see that game regardless. And so for me, it's fun. And normally, as Steve said, in any other world where this just isn't what we've had to deal with to get back to playing, I would say, let's all go tomorrow. Let's get on a big bus and go together. But because if it was a different condition we had faced and gotten through, totally. It's just the condition is literally what's limiting us from going. Like,
I feel like myself and you and everybody here, like watching and listening, is inkling for those away trips, because I think that away trips, really bring a supporters group like together, right? It's traveling together, it's different environments, it's kind of the uncomfortability, it's going into somebody else's home, like those things make people like really bond. And I that's like one of the biggest things that I've wanted from this whole experience from the very, very beginning, were those away trips. Let's go to Phoenix together, let's go to Albuquerque together, let's go play these and like explore a different city together. And I think later in the year, those are definitely going to be possible with, things opening up, with vaccinations ramping up. as COVID, continues to be on the downhill, but I'm just not quite sure it's there yet. And I know we're still a month away. Like I said, this isn't me, stomping on the parade. This is me saying, let's tamper expectations and not be like, we're all going to go. We're all going to drive the bus and let's go. Like, we're just not there yet. COVID isn't over. I think we're well over the hill, but we're just not at that point yet, And
we don't see clouds. That's what I'm saying. Like if we see conditions forming, if we say, hey, we've got allotment, that's a first sign, right? Like that's hey, we might be able to do something with this.
Right.
But if we don't have allotment, it's really hard for us to really do anything, right? So it's those kind of things that'll make the conditions correct for us to feel like we can even do something like this going forward.
To Kim's question there, Kim's question is, any idea if the vaccine will be required? I don't know anything about that. I have no idea. I also have no idea kind of how they would do that. It's kind of like asking people to reveal medical information about themselves. And it just seems like it's asking a lot of personal information that, has never really been done at this kind of a level before. So I have no clue. It kind of seems like, no, but I've also heard that, that might be on the table for some events. I have no clue. I just really don't know. I really think that might be very, very hard to ask of people. I think for more, a better way of doing things would just be keep numbers low until, the COVID numbers follow suit, and then you can open up appropriately. Because
and there's ways
very hard to do.
Want to show that they've been vaccinated. If that helps people feel comfortable, if that's something somebody expresses to us,
perhaps
people want to express that makes them feel more comfortable going to an event where they knew there would be. And this again is what Discord's for, or any of our DMs ever, is just like, hey, I would feel more comfortable. And I've had a few discussions with people who said, like, I'm still working my way back to that. And if it feels like, hey, having people who, are showing you visibly they're vaccinated and you can see most of us together are vaccinated and it makes you feel better about it, maybe we can have bracelets or something like that if it makes people feel better. But like, that's the kind of thing where I don't know if it's a requirement as much as it might be an elective, as Steve is saying, where you're not asking people to vouch that and not making people feel like other than, but maybe just to show strength in numbers of like, hey, not are we out of the woods, but we are, at least doing our part to make sure that as a group, when we are together, we are not going to spread this or be conducive to spreading it and lowering our ability to do so. So that's the kind of stuff where even for groups, like we go to breweries, somebody says, Nick said COVID safe watch parties in our chat here. That is something that, again, if we have more vaccinations and we feel more strongly about it, and people have expressed that to us that they want to share that with us and share that openly, great. That makes it easier to go to certain breweries and say, hey, most of our members have expressed that they're already vaccinated. That helps a lot, but we can't require it from people directly to say, as Steve said, in certain areas that, especially in California, we respect people's personal rights and especially medical rights. And so it's something that I think is great about California. So we should definitely uphold that as a group, right? And as a group that holds those values.
So I noticed this in the chat, and then he just texted me separate, which is worth noting. Our director of philanthropy, Tom, has been working on a really cool project with the club regarding some of this topic. So if you are a 2021 member, check your emails if you have not already. If you are a new 2021 member, I believe we owe you an email. So we will get on that, but he has said most likely at Torero for vaccination requirements. So like I said, he's been talking to the club more than I have recently. I've been slammed with work, so I would trust his word more than my own. So it seems like that is currently something that's in talks in the plans for, vaccination requirements, for Torero. That's potentially to get more of us in there. So, if you haven't gotten vaccinated, please, take your opportunities. If not, wait your turn and do what you can, but we will, looks like that's something that is out there. So we'll talk about the Johnny, I see your comment. We'll talk about the home match a little bit more when we get to it. Kind of skipped over the Tacoma match, Tacoma May 13th. That's 2 weeks away. I think that there's going to be matches in between, a match in between at least. Something that I was talking to some buddies with today is that the schedule is 32 matches in 27 weeks. So there's not going to be weeks off. It's going to be, that's obviously, one match every weekend and 5 or 6 mixed in midweek matches as well. That's a pretty tight schedule, but there's not going to be weeks off. We'll have matches in between there. So that's just what we have announced now. Kind of cool to go back to Tacoma really early in the season. That's where we got our first club win last year. Obviously, that was kind of like right at the precipice of pandemic and COVID shutdown. So it's just kind of cool, worth noting, going back there.
Trey's going back against his club he's loaned from, so played for, and essentially Tacoma's Seattle's 2 team, right? They are a rebranded Seattle 2 team, which I like. I think that if teams are going to do a 2 team, you might as well put it in a locale dissimilar from your main team and give it an identity, and at least try to make it something. Maybe not ship players in totally from a different city entirely, but I at least gives it a different identity, which I think is cool with Tacoma, even though they play in a baseball stadium, and that is what it is. But that's a lot of our opponents. So their club overall is mostly just Seattle 2 talent. It'll be a fun measurement and measuring stick. You always see some players that jump off the screen there, and then you also see some guys you go, wow, that guy probably is, just not going to be there, and hopefully to our success. Last year it was, in terms of beating their back line a couple times, and it felt like there was a lot of holes in there to poke through. And maybe this year, especially in our group, it would be great to have somebody to get some sure points from, or feel like, hey, if we're going to play them away, it's not going to be as hard of a match. And then playing at home, we really feel like we should get some sure points here. That it's never bad to have that in the group, especially in a group that's this difficult and this deep. So that's where maybe Tacoma's going to surprise us and punch us right in the mouth, and I'm going to eat my words. But it is a interesting game for those reasons, I think, to see where they're at and how far we've come. Right? Is our team firing on all cylinders coming out of Phoenix, or are we using that game to get right after maybe a stumble at the gates? So I'm hoping that it's bang bang right out the gates, and then we're maybe another May date here or there. I think they had to announce this one as a home opener for Tacoma, so there might be another date in there, possibly, or 2.
For sure.
There's 4 different weeks, I think, in there, and 3 of them
I think there'd be there will be a match in between the Phoenix match and the Tacoma match, and then there'll be 2 matches at least in between the Tacoma match and our home opener. So that's there's no doubt about that. But while we're still in Tacoma, that's Trey Muse's former club. So he had a cool interview. If you haven't seen that on the San Diego Loyal Social, go check that out. Kind of cool to see that. So
yeah, man. Moving, we'll see how he let a couple in. I don't know. Are we giving him Raz for that? But my guess is he'll want to show up and show well for the scouts there, obviously, and want to get promoted at some point in his first team club. So we're hoping that he puts out that game, and we're talking about the Trey Muse show going into game 3.
Yeah, and so finally moving on to our home opener. So Las Vegas Lights come back to town as though last year our home opener was also against Las Vegas Lights. Here we go. It on one hand, it's a bummer that it's basically 2 months away and it's 1 month into the season. On the other hand, I think Johnny said it kind of well. This gives San Diego an opportunity to maybe get into that orange tier. And, maybe that's happening sooner than later. And maybe there's a chance to get it, into the tier further than that. Because right now, red tier is 25% capacity. That's about 1,500, 1,600 seats in between there. And so that's not, when you think about the raucous and the March 7th crowd that we had, that's a function of how crowded that and busy and packed in that place was. When 1,500, I mean, it's going to be amazing to be there, don't get me wrong, but it would be next level to get to orange tier. Orange tier would be 60%, and I think it's 60 or 65%. I think it's 60 though, and that's a much different story. So
it dramatically upticks the quantity to where it will feel it'll feel more like, I'd say, the difference between red and orange, just to describe, as Steve's saying, it's like red will feel like a preseason game, even though it's not, right? Just because the energy will be
just to be back, oh my god.
Yeah, just like 50, it'll feel 50%, right, of the energy, versus I think red tier, even though it's 60% or 50, whatever it is, it'll feel more like 80% back or 85% back to energy, I think, just in terms of the number of people and the number of restrictions. The problem with red tier 2 is the amount of restrictions in terms of groupings, standing, all these kind of things are very limited, and we can seek exemptions, but it becomes more problematic that you're fighting a code. And the good thing as we go on, as it sounds like, and everything goes smoothly and we all keep doing our part, we'll end up, in a space where we're able to do most of the things we were able to do on March 7th by, let's say, like August 7th or somewhere in there, right? If things trend continually, but we don't know if that speeds up before then or after, based on the trends that are continuing, right? And if everything changes, it changes. But for now, as Steve is saying, we just don't know. It's 2 months out. So the forecast, as I said, right now it seems like the clouds that we see will be that they're telling us we'll have are going to be smaller, right? So it's like that's what it'll look like. And if it grows, we'll keep growing it and growing the hype. We just don't want to give you unbought hype, right? We want the hype to be real, the smoke off the fire to be, something of substance. So in this case,
and I hate to be the people that give great news and then kind of throw water on the fire we just lit. But it's just kind of necessary right now, So, but to then stoke the flames a little bit. God, I can't wait to get back.
Oh yeah.
I can't wait to get back there.
And you know why they scheduled LAFC 2? I mean, Las Vegas Lights for our home openers. They don't have to fly their players; they can just drive them down. So that's nice. They'll save some money, right. Which is good. Thanks, Chris Walker, for that. But yeah, it is one of those things where I think it'll be interesting for that dichotomy for sure too. Hopefully, we're in the stands and we're seeing not only our players and whoever the Lights got, right. It's some Guido was one of those players last year that would have probably played. Maybe that was the thing that made him pull the triggers. Like, we've got a bunch of Alejandro Guidos here sitting on our, on our reserves. We need to get out there and play in against this USL talent and see what we got. So that's where, for me, I think, it'll be, hopefully those will become more interesting matches just with the talent on the field, as opposed to maybe one or two guys that can make the match, but a lot of other guys just filling in a hard put team in a franchise that has been neglected a little bit. So that's going to be interesting. But I think, as you said, just to be there is one foot through the door that I'm excited for. And I think that's enough for me. It's just the question of what variability do we have? And then all of us starting to visualize. And as you said, trying to temper our expectations to the correct level of stoked, right? You don't want to get too stoked over the wave, man, because then you're going face first. You got to be right amount of stoked on that wave. Or you're going off. Are you going back? You backslide off? No good either. You're going around your butt. That's more painful almost than going face first. At least you can somersault. So just saying, you can downplay expectations, but hard to ramp up at the last second. So stay hyped is what I'm saying. But find that position for you. Right?
For sure.
It's all relative. So yeah, we're excited. We're very excited. It's just a question of what can we tell you that we're allowed to do at this point, and very much of it would be in a stadium, which is great.
Right.
That's earth shattering from last year. We did that once. So,
and right now, obviously there'd be like no Barkyard, none of that kind of pregame events that's current with red tier, with orange tier. I don't know what's going to be allowed and what's not going to be allowed. It's I think we can look up what the orange tier allows us to or not to do. But it's goalposts change with all this stuff. So we don't. It's just impossible to say. It's impossible to be like, we can do that or no, we can't, because then 2 weeks from now, if we go to orange tier, they announce new orange tier allowances and stuff like that, and then who knows? So it's just really a wait and see, and we've been saying that for months, but it just kind of still is. It's just that's all we can do.
Yeah. We've called it Grandma's house for a long time, and Grandma, the idea with USD is that it's a relationship, right? It's not that these rules they create are set in stone, and it never really is. They're, especially with a tenant in this case, and somebody who they like as a business partner, they want to. They've created avenues for us to do what we do outside of their normal code already as a supporters group, which is awesome. And the things they allow us to do will continue to change based on how much we show up and we're responsible and do a great job like we did March 7th. And already based on that, they were willing to give us more provision based on what we wanted to do. Obviously, with the situation being what it is, they can only allow so much safely. So that being what it is, as Steve and I are both saying, it will shift. The window, as we've gotten really good at defining this together and talking about it together, the good thing is we have a common language to talk about it now. And it's very easy for us to say, hey, we can do this, we can't do this, or, and all of us to kind of understand the reasons why, or at least talk through it together. So I think at least that's what we've gained in the last year, is like the ability to converse about this pretty easily, which is nice. It's just, hard for us to tell you like, hey, we love everything and we want to get it all back. It's just going to be not earning it back, but just maybe step by step in terms of, hey, we go back and we have a game, everybody feels great and safe. And then within a game or two, then we're looking back at maybe we can have 25 or 50% or whatever capacity we're looking at, or doing a March when we maybe couldn't before. And that's the kind of stuff that'll ramp up, right, as we go.
Yeah, and it's
requirements.
And that's a really good point. It's worth noting that, say we go to orange tier, but that first match back, USD, kind of views things and they go, whoa, like this isn't safe. We don't like this. They can impose further restrictions. They're a private campus. They're not a public owned anything. They don't have, they can do whatever they want. If we go to USD for that first match and 60% capacity and we're supposed to be social distancing, but everybody ends up right in the front of the local section and USD officials see that, they go, yeah, no, we're not going to do that again. We're going to, that next match, we're going to pull the curtains back again. And then all of a sudden, we're limited again. So we really, really need to take everything seriously and all the rules that are imposed on us, because otherwise we're going to get pulled back real fast. So obviously a couple months away, we're not going to hang our hats on that too much, but ultimately really like to have a date to look forward to have an opponent to look forward to see ourselves kind of back at Torero after a year and 2 months. I mean, that's the dream. That's what we've all been waiting for. Like, when are we going to go back? When are we going to go back? And it's finally announced. So we mark our calendars, put a big star on it, start the countdowns, because I can't wait. Even if it's under these limited circumstances, I just want to stand in 109, wear a mask and wave a flag, and watch our boys represent San Diego. That I can't wait for. Those moments, that kickoff, the walkout, that kind of stuff, because we just don't know what the rest of it's going to look like. But to look forward to what we can do and what we know will happen, that's holding me over, and that kind of stuff I can't wait for.
That's the jam. That is
yeah,
it right
for sure,
there, man. That's
for sure.
That's all you need to know about May 30th, which will be a Saturday, and that'll be a great night for everyone here involved. Yes. Finger snaps. But what we will focus on moving forward is the where we want to be at the end. We were talking about the end of the season. Maybe we'll have more to do with each other, which is great, and maybe we'll have bonus games since we got cheated from some last year. We can maybe play more games because the playoff format seems to be pretty open this year. It seems to be something doable. It doesn't. Last year was hard, right? It was one team from or two teams, right? And we missed the bubble, right? And it felt like with Phoenix, it was really one team, right? Because they're just so difficult in our startup here. But two teams, and we just missed the bubble. We all know the story. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. In some matches where we could have picked up points, and then in the matches where we got pulled points because we didn't want to play a game that wasn't worth playing. That was, a where we ended up. And so now this year, it doesn't seem like it should be as difficult to achieve, which is the good thing, and something that's well within the grasp of this very talented club that could finish first in this group. So, Steve, what is the playoff format this year?
So playoff format, last year, like Drew said, it was 2 per division. This year, the divisions are bigger, but it's 4 per division. So last year we had, the division we ended up being slotted into was very difficult, right? And so this upcoming time, it's a little, there's the same difficulty, it's the same difficult teams, but there's more playoff slots. So it's 16 teams enter all of the playoffs of all USL Championship. It's 4 teams per division, and then that's 4 teams in each of the 2 Western divisions, and then 4 teams in 2 of the Eastern divisions, and then there's 2 8-team brackets, and then the winners of those 8-team brackets end up in the final together. So it's essentially a big 16-team tournament where one side of the bracket's the West, one side of the bracket's the East. Seeding will be determined based on position, and home field advantage will be determined by the record of the remainder of the bracket. And that's kind of difficult, not going to get into the super minutia there, but say we're 4 in or 3 in our division, and the second team in the other division has a worse record than we do, then we would still get home field advantage in that round if we were to meet. So just worth noting, that the playoff format is set. I don't think it was formally announced, but Jerry caught it. It was kind of tweeted out, made the rumor rounds, and so kind of looking for the long haul there. But
yeah, it's a sleuths discovery over here. Where again, it's a cool thing to note, but something that was newsworthy to bring up on the pod here, and I think that's good for projecting where we want to be at the end of the season. Is like, hey, okay, you have to win these kind of games, or you have to win these kind of games because they'll add up. Last year was do or die, right? You couldn't lose pretty much any game that you weren't sure that you could try and take points from. So like Tacoma, we had to get points, or Reno, we even had to get a draw as opposed to lose, right? To try and get something out of these certain games that just meant more. And so now going into Sacramento, hey, you get a draw, you get any points there, okay, that's probably better away, but at home, we know we need to get points against them, right? Versus at home, we know we need a win. So these are just kind of the little calculations you do going into the season when you start looking at the schedule that they pencil together is what does that look like? And what's enough to get you into the second season, which is the playoffs, right? Nothing matters once you're in the playoffs, but as Steve was saying, the home field advantage there, is seeded. So you just want to make sure that you're in a good seed to make sure that you're going to be able to use us, right? Use the locals and use the advantage hopefully we give, and maybe have a home game. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
In the playoffs, maybe a couple home games. That would be, again, something that, as I said, would be special for us who felt like we didn't get our full allotment last year for whatever reason. And so for me, I think that's what's kind of cool is that, again, we may not get everything we want game one, but maybe we'll get extra bonus games where we can do everything. That would be, kind of like the rainbow after the rain there a little bit for me. I don't know. That's what I feel like with the playoffs here. So I'm excited for that, knowing that other playoff formats can be more stringent based on the season. It seems like they're really trying to make this more of an open tournament. And I think moving forward, they're probably going to have more and more teams in the league. So we'll see how this playoff format expands year to year or changes as well. But that is the playoffs. Anything else fun happened this week with the club on social? You see any trips or something? Like, I heard we're not supposed to be taking trips as a group, but if you can book out a wing of a hotel or maybe a casino, and you have a group do a little work retreat that they're all tested or vaccinated. I don't know. That sounds like a nice team bonding activity. Did you see any of the content from Harrah's this weekend of the guys just hanging out?
I did, and they look pretty fit next to that pool. But it looked like a good time. The videos and social always looks like really well produced videos. The trivia that they did was really cool. Go check out their social media if you haven't seen that. Probably not too much to comment on it here, but
just players being players, but it's fun. I thought it was fun personality stuff, and it's cool of the club to think like, hey, we've got this advantage of being able to test and have our guys together. We can do something like this that other organizations may not be able to do, given their resources and given their abilities. So I thought that was just kind of fun and hopefully again speak to the closeness of this team, that they look like they were genuinely not only there but like enjoying all being together, which is kind of cool and I'm sure pretty fun for a lot of us, who envy that a little bit, as we were talking about. So yeah, man. I mean, the biggest thing I'm excited for, besides the games we were just talking about, is this locals documentary that John and Shocker Shorts are putting together. It is epic, the scenes that I've seen, and obviously being very close to it, it's hard to watch some of it because it just involves me talking, and I don't like that generally, which is weird for somebody who talks a lot. But yeah, man, I'm excited to see. The other cool thing is the footage that other people have been gathering and sending into John is pretty cool too. So I know he's still looking for more, right? He's still looking for more stuff out there.
I do not know. I will let him chime in on the chat. I believe he said he was tuning in tonight. But I will say that if you are not a Patreon or a patron of Soccer Shorts, this weekend is when the first episode will drop. For the patrons that subscribe to the Soccer Shorts Patreon. So please, if you have not done that yet, please do so. I think that the subscriptions are like as low as $1 per month, and then you get some early access to what he's working on there. And I cannot wait. John has been working on this for a long time. He's put a ton of work into this. So massive shout out to our John Cross. Please go and support him because I cannot wait. Cam Link, it's on our Twitter. It's on his Twitter, the account Twitter. I think it's at BPD Soccer Shorts. Our Twitter is in. We retweet it every week when he kind of posts that happens. But yeah, I cannot wait. And I kind of, what Drew said, I kind of don't like seeing myself talk or hearing my own voice in interviews and stuff, but I'm definitely going to sit down and have a beer and watch this in full, probably a few times, because I know he's put a ton of work into it, and it's going to kind of, if you're just tuning in or just listening for the first time as a new member, John has been around the soccer community here in San Diego for a very long time, and this is kind of maybe the first go at a USL level supporters group. and he wants to, give it a true documentary. He's a a tried and true filmmaker. He knows what he's doing. His work has been incredible. I've done a couple of kind of mini shorts with him, soccer shorts, through the years with my involvement with the American Outlaws. But he's kind of getting a really good, summary and how the locals came to be. I think that's a pretty good summary from my perspective. And I just saw in the chat 3 episodes drop next week, not just 1. So 3 episodes drop next week. I apologize for that misinformation. So even more incentive, go subscribe if you have not, because this is going to tell an incredible story. I think there's no other way that it could be told on kind of how we came to be, our past, our history, growing, the early days. John was invited to a lot of the early meetings, the first leadership meeting, the first time me, Drew, Jerry, Daryl read through the bylaws. There's some really cool access there. And not to tease too much, but there's some really cool stuff that I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing and reliving those memories. So if you haven't subscribed, please do. It's not too late. Massive shout to John Cross. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been fun watching the pieces, and then it's been even more fun thinking about there's all of this weaves together, and will be a master tapestry. I'm sure it's been a massively overwhelming at times to look at in terms of the amount of footage he shot, just because he was at so many things, and I know he's shooting so many things, and the story keeps evolving as you edit documentaries typically. So I'm sure he just kept discovering new veins and storyways that made sense, and had multiple interviews with each of us. So I'm curious to see where it all filters to. But it's, again, I can't say, as Steve said, enough about kind of the heart and dedication he puts into this. It really is love. You can tell that it's made with it. When somebody bakes cookies and you can tell they love it, they love baking cookies. This is like that, but with video. And so it's something that we all love. Anybody who's probably listening to this is into this. So support John, because he supported you and he supported what we're doing here. Before it was a thing, before it was anything, he was there and just pointing a camera at it, but doing it in a way that was supportive and letting us know, I'm here because I think what you're doing is important. And I think that what and just not just what we were doing, but as Steve said, a lot of different pockets of soccer culture in the city that
totally
don't get enough visualization. And this is something that gets a lot of expose, but in a lot of ways, it's a story that it's hard to understand unless you see the way that he tells it, which is that it really is just people connecting and making decisions based on, what the group wants and what the people want, and connecting with relationships in this team and this community. And so it's exciting to see that. And I haven't seen the full thing, so I'm excited to Patreon to get in there, but get on there with them, because it's definitely the thing that everybody's gonna be talking about next month. In the next
as much as I'm dying to be like, come on, John, come on, send it to me, come on. I just want to wait, and I just want to see it with everybody else, because I just want to experience it, just like every other patron. So I can't wait.
Everybody else. So I'm excited. So that's Soccer Shorts, at BPD Soccer Shorts on the things. Twitter specifically has a lot of great information in a thread there for anything we were talking about there, and I put the link in the comments if you're curious about that.
Awesome.
Patreon. Our art project, Steve, we were working on our art project as a group. That's John has his art project and his talents that is multiple, but our group has multiple talents.
Yes.
And tell me about kind of what you can about our very secretive art project that we told our members about in our Discord a little more.
Yeah, so I was going to plug the Discord here. If you are not a member, join. And if you are a member and you haven't joined the Discord, please do, because we've given some cool sneak peeks into something we're working on kind of behind the scenes. And I'm not going to reveal too much because it's really, really cool, and I don't want to spoil any surprises. But thank you to everybody who dropped art off over the past week at the club. We did use all of it. So I'm really not going to say much more. I'm really excited. I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing it all come together. We did finish it, but coming all together as far as the next steps in its evolution and appearances and what it's used for, and kind of what some reactions are. So really, 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 really looking forward to that as well. Speaking of art, and I'm going to drop a little bit more Discord. Travis has been working on some typical Travis magic artwork, and he's dropping it in the art channel in the Discord. Some album covers that are localified, bumified, whatever you want to say. And I mean, I could go on and on. Travis is just an amazing artist. He's so creative. Travis is just an amazing artist. He's so creative. He's so good. So yeah, I know.
And he's drawing in a most peculiar way. Yeah, Travis is doing some great stuff in there.
So good.
Definitely jump in and check it out. There's some fun stuff, as I just alluded, with David Bowie, and you can make suggestions and maybe he'll listen, especially if you have a good one. That's usually how he rolls. So he is a man of inspiration, and it's fun to see him play it out kind of like street art almost here for everybody. So it's a reason to join. If you haven't already, you're a member. Hey, jump in. That's your member benefit, and you should be taking advantage of it, because it's, even if you don't comment, free fun art to look at in your pocket in between your Zoom calls when you're sick of looking at another spreadsheet. There you go. Jump in and check that out.
For sure. Okay, the last little set of locals business, we've been giving, weekly kind of membership updates. Memberships are 251 from a couple weeks ago. I think it was 230 something. So they continue to kind of trickle in, which is really rad. We officially put the scarf order in last week, but there was an issue with the kind of the proof, it's something didn't look right. Actually, Travis caught it, thank God. And so we had them run another, do kind of a check. They found an issue with the file they were using. They ran another sample that looked very good. We approved that today. As far as I know, Eileen said that she sent the email. So as far as I know, things are in motion. I usually Die Hard gives this kind of a production update, and I haven't, obviously, like I said, today was kind of the final go. So we haven't gotten that yet, but if and when we can get an update, we will. And then we will update you guys as soon as possible. And so once we get those in, we will ship those out as fast as possible, barring personal delivery to 200 scarves around town. We will ship those out ASAP. So not really much more to say about that.
Scarves are ordered. It's a big deal. It's a huge deal.
Scarves are ordered.
Scarves are ordered. They're going to come. They're on the slow process of coming here, but not so slow, because we'll turn around in a few weeks and say, "Whoa, the scarves are here." So,
yeah, for sure.
And when they are, as Steve said, we'll get them out to you as soon as possible. But it's that, and then the chains are a different timeline typically as well. They come from usually different manufacturers.
Istanbul. These always come from Istanbul.
Are they both coming from Istanbul? Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But they usually.
I don't know about the keychains. The scarves are from Istanbul. I know that.
Yeah, they can be different. The scarves came from Istanbul last year with fun Turkish writing on the boxes that was very pretty. But yeah, for instance, the pins came from China, and that's what took a while for those to get in. Or they came through China, so the customs took a while. But the scarves being ordered is huge, and again, we'll see in the scarf chains. We'll see those again whenever they get here, and turn around to you. Have a fun party to pack those up and send them your way safely. So
for sure. And I will say to everybody else listening and watching that Eileen has heard you about merch, and she has a lot of cool ideas cooking. So we are constantly talking about merch ideas, constantly talking about that stuff. It's really like, what we can do now versus what we want to do in person, because things like, some things it might not be worth it to do shipping, because shipping might cost just as much as the item might be, but we just need to kind of take it easy and see, it might be later in the year when we start having some of our really, really, really rad merch ideas come to fruition. So
yeah, sombreros are hard to ship, guys.
Yeah,
we're working on it, but
things are in the works. We're working on it as we can.
Merch is happening. There's always ideas. There's always drawings and fun stuff. So it's going to happen. It's, as Steve said, some things are just better delivered by hand to you directly. And then something like glasses, things like that just are hard to ensure shipping and weigh, too much to be worth their purchase, when inherently they're only worth so much, right? Yeah. Shipping them usually shouldn't be half or more the cost. So that's just usually the kind of consideration with that kind of stuff. But otherwise, their ideas, they're always here to be seen. Any other updates on membership overall, Steve, just in terms of numbers or anything else? Otherwise, we will end to a post show. We do have a special guest joining us for the post show who did not join us for the live podcast. So this is a reason to join the post show. Sometimes we have extra special guests come on after, because they're like, you know what, podcast, whatever, I'm here about the post show. So we'll let you know who that is in the post show in just a second. But there's a little tease.
I don't even know who it is. I'm looking forward to it. All right. No, I got nothing else. Let's wrap this up. Right about an hour. Perfect time.
All right. Well, for Mr. Steven Brokoff and Mr. Jerry Jimenez, who is not here with us tonight, but always in spirit, I'm Mr. Drew Steck. Thank you, everybody. And this is where, if you're listening to the audio version, the song will play us out. We love you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey. This is me dancing to the song that's imaginarily playing in the post-edit. But technically, we are all out of the live portion of this broadcast in terms of the actual podcast, but now we're into the post show. The special guest I was telling you about here, you actually suggested this person when I was like, hey, we should bring somebody on since Jerry can't be on. Maybe see if we can get this person. And they were like, I don't know if I'm ready for prime time yet, but I will hop on the post show just because generally maybe they just wanted to come on later. I'm not sure. But it's the person who runs our Instagram. So you can send in your questions about that and or I don't know, just anything about what he's doing around town. But I'm going to send Paul here the link. We're going to have Paul Naku come on if he's still up for it. Let me see. Are you still around, Paul? Link incoming. You ready?
Oh, cereal talk. Let's go.
Let's go. Cereal talk. Let's get into it. So here's my hot take is that, so explain to me, Steve, why you love Frosted Flakes so much, because I'm somebody who doesn't. And Jerry loves Sucaritas, which is the same thing, essentially, but it's, the name I think is more fun to me. But maybe that's just because I grew up with Frosted Flakes. But what is the concept of it? Is it because of the mix of the grainy bran flake? For me, if it's like I'm going to have a fun cereal, it's going to be all the way fun without any other hint of actual cereal there, right? That's where Frosted Flakes for me.
Yeah, I like I don't know. They're just delicious. I guess I don't overanalyze my cereal. I just think they're really good.
I analyze way too much, so that's my problem. But yeah. I think that
but I also like really sweet, sugary things, and that tends to be on the really sweet, sugary side. So, yeah, I think that kind of fulfills my requirements.
Putting on my post-show hat. Like Mr. Rogers.
Oh yeah, Nick, first enjoyed your first experience of Fruity Pebbles. Frosted Flakes are next. All right. Yeah.
We had a New Zealander here who in our membership who went out and was inspired this week after our post show in our Together Thursdays to purchase some cereals and then try them Fruity Pebbles at the behest of Tom Blick, I think was one of the choices. So that was the one that went up there. And,
I believe it was. Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like
do you have any
righteous choice?
Now that we're offline, do you have any Bum TV updates? For me too.
Yeah, sort of. So yeah, I mean, we're writing stuff's coming along. I mean, I've been working too, like you have. So it's gotten in the way a little bit of like making money to live life. But yeah, in terms of what we're actually doing, the Together Thursday has been great. So in terms of Bum TV, part of it is what we're doing now here, right? Like hanging out, having a podcast. Together Thursday is a very loose version of that, where we try and pull on different people who aren't necessarily on the podcast all the time, and we're trying to rotate ourselves out a little bit more here and there. So the goal will be to just have different voices and different people on there, and that's one way that Bum TV is coming together, and that's a more like unscripted way. We do have scripted things as well, so I know that Jerry's chomping at the bit to get that thing out, and again, whenever he is rested up and antibodied up, maybe we'll get that out there, but it's up to him on that timeline, so I can't speak to that, but it is mostly ready. There is the hot ramen video I'm talking about, of course, with Warren and the Bridge Barcata guys, but the unscripted thing I'm thinking of is very fun. It's taking us back to the 80s and some other fun kind of like PBS style stuff. But part of the ask from people is breaking down tactics, breaking down different concepts maybe that they're not used to, and that's what I'm working on. So it's a project for that. I'm not going to say too much more because I don't want to ruin it, but I don't want people to put it in a box, but it's outside the box. I'll say that much. That's not the name of it. That sounds like actually a better name than the name I came up with. So now I'm questioning everything, but no, it's outside the box. But our guest, he flashed up and then flashed off. I'm going to bring him on again. Mr. Three times the charm for Mr.
Oh, damn, look at that background.
Paul Naku, our post-show guest here. What's up, man?
How's
Welcome
it going?
to Talking Dead. This is where we talk about The Walking Dead.
So if anybody is ever curious if there's new merch at the shop, just message Paul. Seriously, he'll know. He'll already have it. He'll have like 3 of them. No, I saw you put those backgrounds together on Instagram. Those are amazing.
Yeah.
Are those just
I
prints?
was doing it the last together with the locals. So I was doing.
Are they just prints?
No, there are shirts. So like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like these are our shirt from the website. We got our free shirt. We got our first day shirt.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if you like printed like copies of them or like if you like actually framed the shirts and jerseys and stuff.
They're all framed.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Take them out and I could wear them, so it's not like I lose them.
Oh, cool.
They're amazing frames. I was jealous when I first met Paul. He would show us pictures of these frames. I'm like, how did you do that? He's like, they're frames for shirts that I got from IKEA once.
I'm gonna steal that idea.
Anymore. And I was like, I want to buy them from you. He's like, they don't make them anymore. I was like, how do I get these? So yeah, it's a pretty incredible frame. If anybody has those, I'm super jealous because they you can instantly change it up, and you get a few new shirts and boom, theme wall. So I'm always jealous, man. It looks great, especially with your framed kits up there and your numbers fitting right in there perfectly. Like they're the perfect size too. It's like the right amount of frame. I don't know how they did all of that, but it's
they're meant for like records.
That would make sense.
Like a record art. Maybe they'll make it up there.
But like Drew said, Paul is the man behind a lot of our Instagram, not all of it. Jerry's, does Instagram story stuff too. I am not an Instagram person. I post like once every 2 weeks on my Instagram story, and it's only like a video of my son Bryce like walking or doing something, and there's like one little comment on it. So then like I check like the locals Instagram, and I like look at it, and I'm like, how on earth do you guys do this? Because I just don't really understand it. But yeah, thank you so much for all you're doing here. Really helping the social media side of things. I'm talking on behalf of Jerry, of course, director of communications. This is definitely his realm. And I know he brought you on board specifically. So taking the liberty to talk, on Jerry's behalf, thank you. Because I think it's really rad kind of how you put things in the polls and stuff and the responses. So thank you again.
Yeah, it's all about being engaged and being a part of the locals some way, somehow. And I think I was able to do just a little bit. Wasn't too much of a commitment. And like Jerry does all the posts and everything, so I get to have fun with all the different stories. The biggest thing was that that 1 year anniversary of our first match, I posted all the video that I didn't use at all, because Instagram you just post a photo or something.
Yeah.
But I had like 4 hours of footage from our first match, and I was like, how can I compact it into a day? So it kind of went through the entire day during that time. So that's the most intensive thing I've done so far, but I think it was worth it because it gave kind of reminisce of what's ahead and what's
and so can you talk about had you ever been for that first match, we us locals, we have been contacted by the club, and we were like, do you guys want anybody, media credentials or anything like that? And so the two we kind of reached out, on behalf was you and was John Cross. And so had you ever been credentialed before? What was that experience like, to kind of be on the field? Can you kind of talk about that? I know this isn't the podcast, this is after hours, but I guess it just popped in my head and I'm super interested.
Yeah, that was such a surprise. I heard, I got wind of that opportunity, and I've never been credentialed. I've never been on the pitch at all. I've always been in the stands, and that was unreal. That experience, to get that kind of perspective. And to be honest, I was going back and forth into section 109 and on the field, because I couldn't miss that whole experience. I couldn't just be on the field watching. I had to participate, and luckily I did. I caught some awesome footage of us, our first goal, everyone's raw reaction, and you'll see them in the GIFs on Twitter,
totally
everywhere. But yeah, that whole experience was pretty crazy. I still had my ticket. I was I need to give away my ticket. I got in. But yeah, it was pretty seamless. I mean, they're really organized. They gave you your badge, and you could pretty much go on the field. And I don't think it's good practice to wear the actual jersey of the team. It's supposed to be kind of neutral. But luckily, I was wearing orange. As kind of both teams weren't wearing orange, so I don't think they cared.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was it was an amazing experience. Like just to be there and then to capture that passion that we have. I rarely see that perspective, and to see like what we put into it, and then just the culmination of what we've worked for years and what we really wanted. Just it was amazing. I'm so grateful to have that experience. If that was like my one game of the season, which it was, like I couldn't ask for more.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Craig Elston owes you gratitude. Thank you forever for that footage you got of him celebrating that goal, because that's, oh my God, like what a video. That's so rad.
Yeah, no, for me it was funny because Paul would come up to me during the match and be like, hey, this is I've never, it would just be so stoked. It was like a kid like playing in like Disneyland for the first time. It was just like, I've never like been on the field. This is crazy. Like just soaking it all like from the pipeline. It was so fun to watch because you were just like having the best time and getting crazy shots and just like doing everything. And it was really, really fun to watch and see you kind of bloom. Like where we're sitting right now in our shot here, like what's behind us as a background. Obviously wasn't during anything, but that was like kind of where you were, is like right there where that's like where the goal is essentially. And it's like to be right there kind of underneath all of that and like the throwing of energy, where the two balls guys have talked about this a little bit, but you got to be one of the people who is down there really is like, part of that energy. And I've said one of the times I was credentialed and not into either team really, I was at Lambeau Field and on the field for a Monday night game, and it was like it is just like the energy, like you can't help but get sucked up in it, like on the field when that's all going on, regardless of which team you root for. Just like even if you were totally unbiased and walked into a city, you would instantly fall in love with what was happening just because that gravitas of that moment on the field. So it's fun, and I'm glad we have you in those moments because you do an amazing job of capturing them, even though it's something that you're still figuring out certain elements of. But I'd say as somebody who gets human emotions and knows where the moment is, you're well skilled at that, and I've been doing that for a while now. So it's been fun to watch your journey from the street court to capturing us as a supporters group, and maybe not the focus as opposed to capturing just the game too, which I think is kind of a challenge, right? Like we're tasking you with, capture the game because that's what we all care about a lot, and the players, because we're giving you this access and we care a lot. But like, is it, as you said, you wanted to be there for those moments. So is that kind of the motivation, or is it in your head constantly like a timer of like, I'm filming the field now, this is great, I got to go back and get the other guys in a minute? Or was it like,
to be honest, like when I started, first we weren't allowed to film the game really because it was broadcasted. Exactly. So we couldn't like point our cameras in the direction, otherwise they would kind of yell at us or something like that. So but anyways, the footage I did get of the game, it's like, it's nothing. Like you can just, it's better to watch it on TV or get those shots. Like for me, it was like I was more drawn toward us, to be honest. Like if there's,
well, that's the energy.
It was so much more like, so much going on in the stands at the same, when the game's going on. And it's like, again, it's something I wanted to kind of capture. Like this is our first game. This is our first time all together. This is the moment that we've been waiting for. And like, just to be able to kind of capture just a little bit what was awesome, just to have it forever type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it really, especially as I said, I'm glad you did, because it's not something we would have otherwise had access to. Steve dropped off a minute here. Now he's back. There you go. You were just a black screen for a minute.
So my computer was dying. I had to get my charger.
Jerry said those frames are available from Michael's. He's alive, by the way, so that's great. Good to see your antibodies building up. But
I like how casually you just said that's great. He's alive. That's great.
He's alive. That's fantastic. But this is huge news. Is the frames are from Michael? Are they available? I need to get dropped a DM here, Jerry. Give me a link to these frames.
Oh,
I've been trying to get them for a while now. From my wall back, I just got hanging jerseys like a person with hangers. I need some frames.
So Jerry commented, "Old stores you miss, go." And I'm gonna jump on the obvious answer here. The Big Fries, in San Marcos. It's gone.
Oh,
I know that place I used to go to the place all the time when I was a kid.
Yeah, today or yesterday, I drove by the one in Mission, Gorge there, over by Murphy Canyon. That was sad. Just the name was stripped off; it's gone. So it's just like the Big Fries building. No Big Red Fries logo anymore. So what will go in there? Maybe like I don't know. I always think paintball as a kid. That was like my go-to. It's a big building. They should put paintball in it.
Totally.
That was my go-to. Circuit City's another store I missed. Just the smell of that place was weird.
TGI Fridays? TGI Fridays is still around?
Still around. It's not the same.
Right? Oh, is it not? Okay.
I think they made it all like hip and like new. Paul, you got any stores you miss?
Oh, the pizza. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Oh man, I think like Blockbuster Music is huge. I think that was when I was growing up. I was like, that's where I kind of got my CDs.
Yeah, totally. Blockbuster, like it hit different that Friday night when you're like, yeah, let's go to Blockbuster, and now it's like just rent. It's also
Sam
easy.
Goody's Suncoast Video. I saw
Jerry said the Pizza Hut salad bar. Pizza Hut salad bar. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that and Soup
Plantation.
Now, / Sweet Tomatoes. Lydia says, which is not the correct name. It's a soup.
She's from Michigan.
I know. It's where they call it Sweet Tomatoes. It was a same thing. It's just
that's so sad.
Soup Plantation. Yeah, I know. Used to drive by Bernardo. I see the one.
That was like the go-to for our family with Parker as a little baby. Is easy to clean up. They didn't care about as much.
Yeah, smash the food around, experiment with different foods. With a baby, it was the best, man. You pack this out on there.
Is that Nickel City still there?
The one that was by by Carmel Mountain Ranch.
Yeah.
No, it's gone, but it moved briefly down to Mira Mesa.
I used to love going to Nickel City. My grandpa lives right over there, and I used to love going to that Nickel City.
It's now a rotational store, so it's usually a Hollywood Express like every October / September. So that's what goes into that space next to the movie theater in Carmel Mountain Ranch. If anybody cares for very hyper specific shout out. But the Nickel City, which was my kid place where I spent like probably most of my childhood spending whatever money I had in my pockets and or my parents would give to me, was at Nickel City there for sure. And as Paul was saying, it's in Miramar next to the game store.
Something like that, like a buffet.
But then I don't know if it's still there. That's somebody's got to do some sleuth work. Figure that out.
You guys mentioned fries. I was thinking of the one on Arrow Drive.
Oh yeah,
that one's like closed. Like I was like, can they build a stadium there, or like have like their indoor facility, like take that whole area because it's a huge space.
They're the biggest store I've ever been in.
Maybe that's a new stadium site. Maybe we're gonna find out in a couple months that's the next stadium site is the old Fries. Who knows? Maybe
GameStop. What do you think it'd call? GameStop almost went out of business before it went viral on the stock market.
Yeah. Affy shouting out FedMart, but really it would be PriceSmart would be the one that became Costco. So if you are over 40, you can miss that, I guess. But the rest of us still have Costco. So I think we're okay. It's the same thing, but it was the OG Costco for those of you who are unaware that's from San Diego. Anyway. Circuit, what was Patton Oscars? Oh, that's the one. It's Oscars for me, 100%. So Oscars was like those breadsticks, and they didn't make them the same after they sold to O's American Kitchen and the family left the company. Like it wasn't the same, but there is a brewery now in Temecula. So the family maintained one location in Temecula where they kept everything the same, like the tiling, the black and white tiling, the name. The menu is all the same in Temecula, but they do have a brewery now, and they updated everything and now updated the whole menu. And it's all hip and stuff, but the breadsticks, I swear, are at least the same, if not close, with the amount of butteriness and the salt. So Temecula, if you want to get those Patton Oscars breadsticks at the Duck Pond, they call it Oscars Brewing Company now. So you can get that outlet, but I've chased this dragon. I've chased the dragon of the breadstick is what I've said. And that's
amazing. Yeah, there's a Patton Oscars in Encinitas that I used to go to all the time when I grew up in Encinitas. I used to go there all the time. That hits different. Yeah.
Yeah. That one in Mira Mesa. That's where I spent most of my nights in high school. Was there across from the Edwards. For sure. I was the jam man back in the day.
Travis worked at and was fired from Price Club. We also saw on his Twitter account this week that he used to work at the Wild Animal Park. I just want like Travis to give me a 3-hour podcast of his life story. Like seriously.
We're actually going to need to do multi-parts of just his work history. And then get into his art later on. But right. An important distinction here. Price Club used to sell nachos. Costco. That's very important. I don't know how I missed that. That is very key information. I do remember the snacks there were better 100% as a kid. They were much better until it became Costco. But then they had the churros, and I sold out for the churros, man. I was like, yeah, just give me a churro every time, and I'll shut up.
Yeah, it was like all about the tub of licorice every time we went there.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
For sure. Okay, well, I'd be remiss if we get too late and we don't talk about Barcata. You guys go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't really involved with Barcata early on, or even really now. So you guys go.
Like, it's been tough. We started this thing that was all about getting together and being in a place playing soccer together and sweating and touching each other to some degree because you're trying to play street soccer, and sometimes that's backing into or pushing each other or high-fiving, right, just out of sheer emotion. And so it's really hard. It's really hard to say, let's go play, let's wear masks, or let's play half speed. None of that really works in street game, at least the same way that it might even in outdoor, where people can kind of jog a little bit. It just isn't the same or like enjoyable. So we've tried playing here and there, and it's been safe to play in masks outdoors and stuff. But yeah, it's a fun activity for anybody who's not aware. It's something Paul, myself, Carl, Daryl, Brandon Rodriguez, a number of locals put together as just kind of an outlet to play. We were really sick of not being able to play in a league or something where it required $100 or some commitment. It was just like, I just want a place I can play that's not indoor or outdoor or some specific thing and is street, maybe specifically, but also to just a place that we can go and define. So we found this place under an overpass, started playing there. It flooded eventually. We moved to Chicano Park and attracted a ton of more people who really love the concept of just come and play. It doesn't matter if you're 5, 65, whatever. If you're wearing jeans, if you're wearing the right shorts, the perfect shoes, great. We might throw you on a team with a 7-year-old, like, hey, it's cool, but it's you're learning how to play, on the street in that court. Everybody's kind of the same. So I've loved it. It to me felt like a different outlet than anything else I've ever done playing, and feels exciting. Paul, I'm droning on here, but yeah, we're looking to return to play, and it's been tough to create that atmosphere, right? Like it's a community mix. Like that's what it is. Yeah. It's a mixer. And so that's where the magic is getting people together who aren't normally together. And that's exactly what we're not supposed to be doing during this period. So that's the heart of it. And the core of it is we play. So we've been doing a little bits in here and there at some of the newer futsal parks that Target put in. And I don't know, Paul, when are we looking to maybe get back to trying to do this for anybody who's been saying, hey, as a local, I want to jump in and do Bridge Barcata. When can I do that with you guys?
I think we're looking around June. It might be like around our anniversary or something when we started, like June 18th or so. I think when all the vaccines roll out and stuff like that, and more people are comfortable, because like you said, it's tough. It's our whole thing is like it's open to everyone, and it's tough to be like, did you get your vaccine? We need your number so we can do contact tracing. We need to do all this other stuff. Like that's kind of not our thing. So it's like, let's kind of hold off, wait till the right time to have like open pickup and have it be what it really is. Because once we have like reservation spots and stuff like that, it kind of gets away from the spirit of what we do. And it's that's just how it is. So kind of we're not like sacrificing too much by waiting. I mean, we could wait. There's no rush to be like, we have to play and put people at risk type of thing. And so kind of like low key right now, just you might kick it around. Like we played like top bins or hit the post or something, crossbar challenge, but nothing like too involved or organized. So
yeah, it's been fun to kind of just see people and be like, hey, I'm kicking a ball with you again. Again, the same thing with us getting back to the stadium. It's like, hey, we're just walking before we run. And that's kind of the stage we're in. I think, as Paul said, maybe around June, we're going to be able to say, let's do this again, because it's not this, like, as he's saying, like, it's not the same. So if we decided to do this now, it's not Barcata anymore. It's something that's not what it's been, which is what people loved about it. So we don't want to take the soul out of it and say, like, let's kill the thing we loved about it in the first place, which is that you can just roll up at 5 on a Friday to the courts in Chicano and be able to just throw a bib on and start playing. Like literally get out of your car, walk up, here's a bib, and jump on the court. Like that's what we want to be possible for anybody. It just isn't right now. So I think, again, as we get towards that period, we'll feel more, we'll see the signs and we'll see people feeling comfortable. There is people out there playing. You can get into a group somewhere. And that's been awesome to see, is that despite what we really wanted to happen and why we did this in the first place, getting people out to play and finding places to play, and people are doing that. So that seems to be, again, great. And we want to help highlight that and find ways to amplify that as a small collective that's just honestly about keeping it free, keeping it fun. So that's just what we want to do.
Yeah, and I'll say, like, as a kind of a not somebody who's like involved, super involved in like super grassroots, like you guys were like sweeping under a bridge, and like I wasn't there, like I wasn't a part of that. Like whenever I do make it down, obviously pre-COVID and whatever might be post-COVID, like it's so much fun. You guys have such a good group, and there's a lot of like talent there. That's not like, I'm not surprised because it's the region we live in, but it's like, I've played soccer almost my whole life, and I show up and like, I'm like, wow, I'm so rusty. Like I'm so bad compared to these people that come every week and like are like really good at what, like close quarters kind of futsal style, like soccer. So it's very different, but it's so much fun. Like, and nobody cares. Like I was like one of the worst people out there, and like nobody was like, oh damn, we're playing with this guy. It's just like, yeah, go have fun. Like it's like the vibe is like so good, but it's also like pretty organized, like blue team, everybody has pennies or bibs or whatever. And like, it's awesome. Like, listeners, people who still tuned in, please go check it out. Cause you guys are doing incredible stuff. Like massive shout outs to what you guys are doing. Cause I think you're reaching an audience in a community that otherwise wouldn't be reached there where you play. So it's also just a ton of fun. It's a perfect way to spend a Saturday morning.
Yeah. Also back to tie it back into like the locals, like before we were trying to coordinate with the other like traveling supporters and like have that be a way to mix together. Like we would just have like a pickup between the electric company and the locals, or like, for example, this Sunday we would have done like the outsiders and the locals type of thing, just kind of like a fun space, nothing too serious, but just a way so that like, we're still part of this community, we're still coming together, we're still having a good time with each other. And then we're hoping that would kind of be reciprocated, like when we go to Vegas or when we go to Phoenix, like they'll be welcoming us, so it's not just, oh, we're heated rivals, but like we can come together and just have some fun and create memories, create relationships with other people from different places, and especially build that bond with the locals themselves. Like if you play together, you have those shared experiences, it's only going to get better.
Yeah, for sure. No, totally agree.
Yeah.
It all comes together. We had the Pana at our Bums parking lot, right? So it all kind of bleeds together in terms of like the culture here, the building, as Paul said, the chance to create multiple touch points with not only our group but other groups and network is like why we love doing this, is because you'll have people show up where it's like, hey, I didn't know any of these guys from 1904 and I couldn't pick them out of a lineup, and then they'd come play with us, and it's like, oh, now I know who this guy is, I know who that guy is. They're like, and that's been fun to not only have that just with that team, which is great, but like even SD International, who's become really good friends of ours with Barcado, who will come and play all the time. Our International, they're fantastic players, but they're also just great people who love the game and love the community. And so it's cool to find those pockets of people that are groups that have been there, as we discovered with the locals. The same idea is just by networking, putting out a big light tower, which Paul has been amazing at with Instagram, which for Barcado was a huge amount of our following and kind of early integration with a lot of this stuff. Is again, like, it takes the collective of us all showing up and putting stuff up, but Paul was definitely the key to making that networking the next level, right? For a lot of us, it's like, let's just show up and play. Paul was the guy who's like, let's put it on Instagram, let's make it more public, let's get it out of the Facebook group.
Yeah, let's try to get
people if they want to show up at this place under an overpass. And we're like, okay. And people are like, this is really cool. I don't know if I want to come, but this is cool.
Yeah, let's get professional teams to like play us and enjoy that type of thing.
Well, we were doing that since we were under an overpass. We're like, come out to the overpass. We'll play you here. And then once we went to Chicano, it became way more visible, right? Which was key. But I think that accessibility. So we found out things along the way, which is, again, we never intended it to be like, hey, we're going to take over every pickup, which is not the idea. And everybody should play where they can play in your corner neighborhood. The goal for us was always like, how do we get people playing in a way they don't accept or don't maybe haven't thought of or haven't looked at previously. And they've only thought, oh, there's only indoor. I love playing. Indoor leagues are just intense, or it's a lot of commitment. Outdoor leagues are just a lot of running for me at this point, or just maybe I'm not in game shape, or as Steve said, like Steve's a great player, but he just hadn't played in a while, right? When he came down, like it just.
I'm an okay player.
You're a good player. You've got very good vision. It's just tough when you're like, it's even more frustrating when you're like, I know my feet can do this, and they're not doing it right now. But like, it's, if you are that person who's like, oh, I'm embarrassed because I knew I used to play well, and now like there's no judgment. That's what we do. Like that's literally like what it's there for. Is like I will show up and have the worst day of my life, and I honestly feel very different than scoring like 10 goals and being the best player in every game we play in. Like it is very like I'll feel maybe slightly better about that because I'm like, ooh, I did it. But like it's just the fun. It's playing, right? Like that's all it is, Paul. Like even if you just show up and barely play, sometimes it's the vibe of being there and like having people hang out. So it is just a community. It's another thing like this for you to tap in and feel a part of something, especially if you're somebody who did just move here or you have never played in a community here and you're like, I've always wanted to play. It just seems intimidating. This is the whole point. We're anti-intimidation. We're totally like you will nutmeg me probably without trying. So just get on the court. I'm so tall. You can just roll the ball somewhere in my direction and it'll go through my legs.
There's a good story there. So one of the times I showed up, I had, some information that Landon was going to show up too. So, I made the drive down and I was playing against him on one of the teams. And I swear every time he got the ball, all he was looking to do was nutmeg me. He didn't care about scoring. He didn't care about anything. So I was like defending, like with my legs glued together, like you will not nutmeg me. I don't care what else you do. And he did not. And I walked away from there proud of that moment because that's all he wanted to do. That's all he cared about for the times that we, went up against each other. But I was like laughing.
We got on film some little kid nutmegging Donovan.
Yeah. That's awesome. You should just play that over and over again. Make that a GIF.
Looping it. That's why he retired.
Yeah, for sure.
Officially, that was it. That's
so good.
Final straw that did it. I think was that kid, man. With the But yeah, you got him. You got the Sockers will come out. It's everybody's been there. So it is just this cool thing of like,
except the loyal. So everything's shut down before the loyal. So like I think that's what we're looking forward to next is like, that opportunity to like kick it just casually with professional players and like the team that you support, because that's like an amazing like experience to be like, I actually passed the ball or I got megged by someone. And it's like, and that's kind of like what we're kind of into. Like that's the vibe. Like we can bring the community closer. We can bring it like it's in touching distance. It's not like this team on a pedestal. Like they're down to earth. They're people like us, and they love the game as much as we do. So it's kind of like that's awesome. That's what I'm looking forward to eventually. When off season, of course.
Especially now that we've gotten to know them, right, before being able to play with them, which is really cool. So it's like these personalities, and now it'll actually be more fun because it's like before I would have been like, oh yeah, I played with Charlie, and I wish I could have like brought this thing up, but like I didn't know about it then, right? So it's like now we actually have that ability, which is really cool, and it's been no non-effort on their side. Loyal has been totally in our ear for sure, as Barcata as well as a group, saying like, hey, we really want you guys to be doing this. It's just obviously when it's safe and it's okay. So maybe our return to play will be with some of our friends there, or maybe they'll help us hype it a little bit as well. But it is something that everybody's considering a little bit of. The other thing I'm curious too, Paul, is like finding new courts that we haven't played on this year, which is like a thing we love Chicano. We love a few places, but we played in Balboa before. That was kind of fun. We played at the pier. There's different courts around town. So if anybody has a place where they're like, I wish people would play here, that's kind of always been our mission, is like trying to help people play where people should be playing. So I don't know, that's where my heart's at kind of going forward in the next year, is finding places that, now that pickups and street soccer is becoming more unanimous around the city and people are starting to see, hey, I can just get some nets and do this, park and send out an Instagram. Like, that was our whole point, was like, you could just anybody could do this. It's not that hard. Like, I don't know, that's what I want to do. What's your like next year with this look like, Paul, in terms of like your intent? And again, this is all just like our collective, like how we talk. We're like, hey, maybe this is the thing we should do.
I just want to see us like blow up those courts that were made like in El Cajon and in Chula Vista. I really want them to be like a place to be. Like, I want to show like the city, like we need more of these. It can't be just these 2 or 3 locations. Like they need to be everywhere. It's so easy to put like a square box under a basketball hoop or something like that. Like this can be accessible like everywhere. We have like hundreds of basketball courts unused, and like you can make a little adjustment to like activate those spaces again. So But for sure, like whatever time we have this year is to kind of like focus on like what we do have and show that, this is what the city needs. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No, it's definitely I think a thing that ties into what we're talking about here with the club tonight too. It's the club is very much, they've talked about openly. We've heard like a vague talk of a community program and values and tenants, and they definitely have like all of those things down, by the way. Like they're real things. It's not like, hey, here's our vague thing. Like the reason they talk about it is it's actually very like detailed. There's like several different tenants, and there's different ideas that they want to explore in every avenue very strongly. One of those is actually physically building courts, and they talked about this, I think, like once or twice, maybe publicly, but privately they've been much more open to us as the locals leadership, at least, and as the Barcata leadership, about building these courts. So as Paul's saying, like part of what we did with the locals is by being supporters and being loud, they listen, right? And they take your ideas in, and being people who show up. Same thing with the courts. By showing up and doing this, we've proven that this is something that should happen, and generally that we're people who can get people excited about this. But, the same thing goes with those courts. You want to see more courts in your neighborhood. You want to see futsal courts that are futsal first, or, dual purpose soccer futsal, like that. The club wants to build those. They're saying they want to build like 20 or so in the region in the next few years, which is awesome. But this is what we're talking about. Like, so by talking to, not saying Paul and I, if we play down the street from you, that's the court they'll build on, but like, that's the kind of thing where as we're starting to play on these courts that have been built and courts that maybe should be built, that's the kind of thing where the club is actually going to be a conduit to that through the locals, through Barcata as well. So it's something that as you show up, that has a big basis for, as Paul and I have seen, it starts sometimes with like 3 or 4 people in a place. And then the next week you'll come, there'll be 20 people, but it's just because somebody was really dedicated to showing up, being there, just bringing the nets and hanging out for anybody who wants to show. Consistent. Like it works. Yep. Yeah. Paul's you said, like it's the key. It's consistency and just like putting it out there and having people play. Like it's not that hard. I don't know. There's people are like, what's your secret? It's like, just keep showing up when it's lame. Paul and I talk about this a lot. Like the first few times we go places, sometimes it's like just the 2 of us kicking a ball in Pana, and then like a third person will come, which is almost weirder because then it's the 2 of us trying to please this person. Like, well, trust me, it's not like this. And next time we'll have more people. But sure enough, you'll get 8 the next time, or 10. And they're like, that was a fun game. That was the most fun I've had in a long time. And they'll come back and they'll bring 2 or 3 friends. And all of a sudden you have 20 and you've got, 2 games going on and 4 teams. And that's what we were doing in North County at the at Forest Ranch, like soccer, or Forest Ranch hockey park before we shut up too. Like that was the, that's the model. Like that's what we've been doing. Sorry, Steve.
It's kind of getting at the roots of like what, the game is about, right? Like beauty of soccer is you don't like baseball. You need a glove and gear and a ball and a bat and bases, and like, and football you need pads, and like if you really think about it, soccer you need a ball, and you can set up you can set up cones or backpacks for goals and like just go have fun, and like it's really getting at the core of what the game is all about, So I like, big shouts to what you guys are doing.
Yeah, thank you.
And I will say, Luis is saying we don't need nets. I will say, Paul, when we've tried to do this without this stuff, people are less receptive already. So like, I do think we
painted a square on a wall. That kind of worked for a little bit.
It did, but it's like it's hard because you just don't get the same satisfaction of seeing the ball ripple or being able to shoot from distance and barely determine whether the ball was in or not, right? So if it hits the line, it's kind of in, and then it's this like, was mine more in than the last person's, and that whole thing, and it takes you out of the game. So I think part of that structure, even though it is, I totally agree, Luis, like it's all street ball is even just about like literally play everywhere, like. Exactly. If I had my ideal video game, I've described to Paul, it would be like Grand Theft Auto, but instead of guns, like you just have soccer balls and you dribble around a giant city, and you can just like kick the ball off anything, or like play a game. Well, no, you're not killing people. You're just like you can adapt to the circumstance. I want to play.
I think if somebody were to ask me, you could create a video game that was Grand Theft Auto but replace guns with blank. I think soccer balls would be like the last answer I would give.
That's a good idea.
Then you can kick around with anybody. You're kicking with anybody. You go on, and then you can be kicking down this random street. Like that's what I'm saying. Like that's the fun to me of it. So like I'm totally with that. But I do think there's something to creating that a little bit of structure there that says like, hey, this is a place you can come and do. As Steve was saying with the pennies, like it does just grease the wheels a little bit. That intimidation factor and that like the codedness of it feels like really real for people, and they enjoy it more. I do personally, but like that's where some of the most fun I've ever had is without any of that. And then, I will say for whatever reason, it does seem to attract people too. Like people are always curious, Paul, right? When they see us, they're like,
yeah.
what are you guys doing over there? Even if they don't want to play with us, you get a lot of
Yeah.
lookers.
It's
We just kinda
definitely
walk
easier
by.
it's easier to break the ice if you have like bibs or something, because it's not like
Yeah.
it's not like you're on this person's team, because it's so easy to like jump teams, which people do if they don't have bibs. Like they just want to play with their friends.
Exactly.
But once you like give them a bib, for some reason they feel like they're
Yeah.
locked in and
For
like I
sure.
have to play with this group now. And it's like I think that's kind of like brings people in, because a lot of times people just come by themselves and like they need a group to play with, and just like simple as like
Yeah, for
handing
sure.
the same color bib or something
Yeah.
that really
Yeah, I
makes
mean,
it
no, you're so
easier.
right. You're so right. Because the time I showed up, I mean, I was like, I just showed up, but I know you guys, I know Daryl, I know Landon, I knew a bunch of people there. Not that I'm there every week, but then it was like, the white team or whatever needed another player, and I was wearing a white shirt, and I was like, yeah, cool, like I'm gonna go play with them. And like I didn't know any of those guys, but I still played with them. And like, yeah, I would have liked to play with you guys or whatever, but at the same time, like, it doesn't matter. It's just you just join and you do whatever you can to play. So
Yeah. And
I
that's what
think that's the magic of San Diego. Like we had other people talk to us from like other cities, like someone we talked to from New York, like he was like saying it's like the opposite. Like we're very exclusive. Like we're a group of guys that always come and play. We don't want to bring other people in. Like our style is very inclusive. Like everyone can join us. So it's very opposite. So it's like really
cool.
it's very different. I think every city is very different, has a different vibe, and I think it's cool to see like this is what San Diego is,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
Yeah. No, and Lydia says we
sure.
make her miss playing soccer. And the cool part is, I will say from like a male female perspective, like it is totally open. I don't think I've ever played with co-ed teams that were, so like pretty mixed, like, and nobody like really even thought about it. It was just like mixing up whenever women are there and we get them out there and play together. So I don't think there's a male female thing to it. By the way, if anybody's like, oh, this sounds like it's still a lot of dudes, like honestly, like that's been the most fun of it, was being able to watch talented female players like Christina Birkenrode, who's now playing for Monterey, would just stop by our sessions when she was in town, and like we were like, oh, she's coming up and she's played for this team and that team, and like when she went to go
Champions
play
League in Prague and stuff, and like
yeah, exactly. We were like, oh yeah,
on the
we were
court.
like, yeah, we think she's good, and then we started looking at her like, holy crap, she's actually really really good. Like, and she was always schooling us, right? She was always better than anybody else out there, but it was funny to find out like, oh my gosh, like she's just totally, but love the vibe and love hanging out, and like that's the kind of person you meet and find out about that like you wouldn't know otherwise, is just hanging out in the San Diego scene and is there and is just like, and again, like what I'm saying is your wife is going to go play Champions League soccer after this, Steve, if she comes play with us. But no, it's for anybody really.
She surprised me our entire relationship.
Yeah, but even somebody like that who's super intimidating, if you would think so, is so unintimidating to play with, and is actually the best person to play with, to be honest. So it's like that's the kind of cool part, is that you have that, just all over the board from just different personalities and different people, which I love. Yeah, and to circle back to Luis, I totally get you. Like that's what street soccer is. So like I'm not making a point about nets. We were just saying like it's weird that just adding that makes it more legit to people, and I don't know why. Like it's just literally one layer, but it makes it feel like, as Steve said, you can hand them a thing, and for whatever reason, if somebody says like, hey, we need one more for this team, it's always harder to get people. But if you have a bib there, you're like, just hand it to somebody. You're like, here you go, and then they feel compelled. They have to step out there. They have to join. So it is just this, whole thing. So yeah, Christina Birkenrode is her full name for anybody looking, but C Berkey is what she goes by on the socials. So follow her and check her out if you're not already. I don't know, Paul, what's your like best thing as people are dropping out here? I'm sure getting to bed in a little bit, but what's your kind of like best thing to that point, I guess, in terms of what makes Barcata different than anything else besides what we described, I guess? I think it's your dope playlists and your music that you bring. He does bring a sweet speaker system, and I never.
Your
seen
brother,
it before,
right? Yeah, come on, talk about him.
My brother DJs every so often, and
yeah, it's rad.
I don't know. The best thing for me is that it's the people that come out. Like we haven't had too many people that are like super competitive and like I don't know, like a-holes or anything. Like everyone has been pretty cordial and everyone's like very welcoming. Like I think that's downfall of some pickups. Like you get people so intense, and like if you play volley sometimes, like you get injured because people are going at you. But for some reason, like this pickup has maintained some kind of this respect of each other. Like, hey, we're just here to have fun. I don't know, maybe because we have such a mix of players, maybe because we have some kids often come. You kind of have to like adjust your playing style. But I think for me that's been the most surprising. Like we have kept it at a pretty good, like welcoming, like vibe for how we play, because it's that again, that's not the case. Like you go to other pickups and they're at your throat, and it's not fun. It's just competitive. People like that for
some
sure,
guy
but
took it over and now it's his
yeah,
thing, and it's
but
like
I mean,
it's all
this,
very person dependent.
yeah, but for some reason, like there's just the people that come out. It's just been awesome. Like to come play
It's
again.
surprising.
It's like people like are finding their love again. It's like I played organized soccer all my life, and then but I never played street soccer until Bridgebar Caught. I never thought of the concept of a pickup game for soccer, because it's always like you're on a team. You can't just go to a park and play.
Yeah.
So it's very new concept to me. So yeah, it's just kind of like again, just the people.
I'm the same in some ways. Like I realized looking back, I was like, oh, the most fun I've ever had playing this was in smaller spaces. Like it was futsal-ish, street soccer-ish spacing, and like that's what I enjoyed about the game was those tight angles, and actually what I enjoyed about basketball was that same feel is that you can dramatically impact a game within like a second and a half, flip it from one side to the other, that you just don't get in other games. That I think is fun. But as you're saying, it's like the thing that is surprising. So that wasn't surprising because it's like all these things that people have found out about playing this, smaller court sport for centuries maybe. Since the other sport was invented, they've distilled it down to this essentially. But for me, it was the people. It like really is this like people. We said it would work as long as jerks don't start showing up, and we're like, yeah, jerks will eventually show up, and we'll have to like figure it out. But like they still have it. Like we keep like planning, like, yeah, what if somebody shows up and they do this or do that, and like you usually have to consider that going to be a possibility with how many that we've ran, and how you have 40 to 45 people showing up, and people are like, oh, I got to wait how long to get on a court and blah, blah, blah. And it's not like that's a huge issue, but like you'd think people get fed up or get like just pissy. It's never happened. It's people have been like, yeah, man, we're out or whatever. But like, it's never really reached like a boiling point where like maybe people have gotten like a little bit like, oh, but like very quickly, like everybody's very, very cool. And it's very San Diego in that way. Like it's the people that we all think San Diego is, but like actually showing up and actually putting out on the court. So that to me is like, I agree with Paul there. That's what's really special. But it is that I think miracle of the ability to do the style of play that maybe you thought was beyond you, or the things you loved about playing the game are still accessible to you. And so that's what I think for me is always exciting, is like I'll dribble down my hallway and I'm like, this is a real skill that I'm actually practicing for when I'm out with my friends on a court. Like, as opposed to like doing that in your house. Normally you're like, this never applies anywhere. But like those tight corners where you're turning with your little soccer ball for your dog, like honestly, like that's the best practice you can do for this kind of stuff besides playing it together. So like it is fun to have that kind of direct application to what you're doing every day. So that's for me. That's pretty much it. But we will have you back in Straits, Steve, and maybe we'll play in Vista. Maybe we'll play in Encinitas. I don't know. Up in your hood, we'll find some courts to.
I'm used to driving, so
Yeah. Football is life. That is generally how I feel, Johnny Diaz.
Football is life. Ted Lasso. Man, we got to get Ted on the podcast.
We've tried. I already cut the coach beard, and he said that he's busy. So we'll see. Yeah. Maybe when we were supposed to play him here, but 1904. That was the thing we didn't talk about, is that they took that slot from AFC Richmond, and
that's right.
And Charlie's brother plays for them, I think, something like that. I don't know, but it was hard to come in. So it is what it is. But we're good. Steve, you got anything else for the post show here? Thank you for all 14 or 15 you keep hanging out with us. You're the best. I don't know why you're still here, because we're just rambling on about the things we love, and we're glad you love them too. So thank you for loving what we do, and us to some degree by still listening to us. I appreciate it.
Nope, I got nothing else. Not today.
Thank
Tonight.
you, Paul, man, for jumping on.
Yeah, thank you.
Man. This
was
fun. I like that you were you were the first post show guest that wanted to officially be a post show guest.
Yeah, right.
As opposed to people who we just throw in here afterwards. We're like, hey, come on. But like, no, I was like, hey, you want to come on the middle? He's like, nah, post show.
No.
I was like, he's either doing something with Parker or like just like wants the time to like mentally prepare or like doesn't want to be put on the gun. But I feel you either way. I was like, I get what he's saying. I like it. But thank you for all you do, man, because it is real. The thing that I think amazes Steve and I, just to wrap this up, is like the fact that you put in the consistent effort of like when I'm like, oh man, I really should do something. Not only are you posting something, like
it's like already done.
Always good. Well, that and it's good. It's like something that's like got character or got some level to it that's like wants me to engage with it or wants me to like, even though it's our own in-house, you know, as far as the locals goes, like I know I'm just messaging you and being like thumbs up, but like I want to say thumbs up because I like it. Like I generally would if it was somebody else's post. So thank you for always bringing that energy, because I know that sometimes it's like on a short notice or sometimes it's like a weird like slow day where it's been 2 weeks and nothing has happened with the club, but you still find something great to post. So you are the king of that, in my opinion, is finding good stuff and good content on bad days. So I appreciate you for that and finding great contents on fast days. So I don't know, Steve, anything else you want to tell our guest how much you love them?
I love you all. I miss you all. We will see you next week because there's no Together Thursday this week. I missed last week. I had a big presentation Friday that went excellent. So I missed last week, but I look forward to next week's podcast and then next week's Together Thursday.
Yeah, I'm trying to make it hard. I'm not good at it. I'm not Garrett Bale.
You got a good job. You did it. You did it okay.
You just gotta go like this thing.
Yeah, I like the granddad thing. Yeah.
Like
that's nice.
Yes, like there. Heart.
Oh, nice.
He's the best. I love that.
All right.
Speaking of good follows. But see everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Follow Loyal Local 13, and we'll see you all next Tuesday. Bye, everybody. Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.